My name is Mohammed Deabas. I am a PhD candidate in international business, working with Dr. Georges Batsakis and Dr. Jassim Al-Ajmi. And here, I'm presenting my progress in my PhD thesis, 3 essays on cross-border venture capital syndication. Sorry. So here is the agenda for our presentation. We start with talking about a background about the venture capital in cross-border globally. Then we talk about a little bit about our systematic literature review, followed by the research motivation, the research questions, the conceptual model, and we conclude our presentation with our empirical strategy. So we noticed in the past 25 to 30 years, there is a substantial increase in the cross-border venture capital investment. More than 80% of the cross-border venture capital investments involve multiple investors. So this is the main idea. Like when these VC firms, they do this or engage in this cross-border investment, they don't do it individually. They partner with other VC firms in order to invest in a startup in the company in a foreign country. And so we decided to look a little bit about the dynamics and the processes of forming this partnership among the VC firms, given that these VC firms, most of the time, they are coming from different institutions and different nations. So the VC syndication here in my dissertation, it's actually perceived as an internationalization strategy. In the IB literature, in international business literature, there are different modes of internationalization. So in the VC context, here we look at the syndication as an internationalization strategy. So what do we define the syndication? Recall from the seminal work of Wilson, 1968, syndication means pooling the resources of different individuals in order to make a common decisions regarding the investment. And then this seminal work was extended over the time until we come with the seminal work also by Gomez and Lerner, and we define, or we looked again about this syndication by determining the key challenges, mainly the information asymmetry and the uncertainty. Sorry. Yeah, so here quickly, this is our process of the systematic literature review. We did this systematic literature review 2 years ago, and we followed the PRISM procedure by identifying the papers using specific keywords from the literature, and we combined the data from Scopus and Web of Science, and then we did coding and reading the content and conducted content analysis on these papers, until we reach to the final 76 papers. And to ensure the quality of these papers, we only include the empirical papers that were published in topic quality journals according to ABS ranking, 4 stars or above. So this is we paid attention. So we excluded any theoretical paper. We excluded also any books or book chapters. We excluded any not peer-reviewed journal empirical paper. And then our systematic literature review resulted in this integrative theoretical model, where we identified in this as a central construct the VC syndication itself, along with its antecedents, moderators, mediators, and the outcomes, whether these outcomes are financially or non-financially. So that was the result of our systematic literature review 2 years ago. Starting from this point, reading in the literature, we noticed that the VC syndication has been examined in different contexts. But given the rise of these geopolitical tensions and the deglobalization around the world, we noticed that in the VC literature, we overlooked the socio-political risk among the nations or the institutions. So we decided to work in this direction, and we started reading in the literature on this topic, and we perceived the socio-political risk as follows. When there is a high social political risk in any country, like a war or political instability, etc., then foreign investors, they have a difficulty on obtaining the information, gathering the information, and interpreting this information before making a decision whether to invest in that host country or not. So we talk it like to be more quantified, more like nuanced. We perceive like the socio-political risk as information-based across national distances. And why do we how did we make this a claim? Because any socio-political risk in any country, it is reflected in the any economic activity in that country, and this uncertainty in that country are integrated in the financial market of that country. I mean, like if there is any certain event in any country, then these events, socio-political events, will be reflected into the financial markets and the security prices. So the information content in the financial markets could be a good measure or a formative measure for the socio-political risk in that host country. So this is how we started thinking about how to conceptualize and measure the information distance between the countries. So to capture the information based across national differences, we have the national financial markets that integrate these socio-political things. Okay, so information distance as a concept, it measures the cross-national distances, and it measures the cost of gathering and interpreting information about a foreign country or a host country or a foreign institution. And here in this paper, we focus basically on the distance or the cost associated with the distance between the VC firm home country and the host country. Because like when we talk about the socio-political risk in the literature, it could be examined as a distance or differences between two nations or within one nation, the home country. The host country. So in our study, our assumption here is to capture these differences in the information between the home and the host countries. So we are not talking about like within the host country socio-political risk, but our novelty here, our contribution is measuring the distance, because this is the dominant theme in the international business literature. How we can conduct this business across nations. So when we talk about across nations, then we need like to develop these cross nations measures and indices. So this is my essay, my PhD. It consists of 3 essays. Essay number 1, examining the relationship between the information distance as a reflective measure of the socio-political risk between two nations on the decision to syndicate with other VC firms in the host country, and the implication of this decision on the economic performance of the VC firm. Specifically, when we talk about the economic performance, we talk about the successful of the portfolio company exit. Exit could be through IPO or acquisition. So this is like basically the main economic performance. The second essay, we need to investigate how we can leverage, how the VC firms can leverage their international experience, their experience in their domestic markets in order to mitigate the risk of the information distance. And essay number 3 extended is essay number 1 and 2 by delving in more details into the idea of the experience by talking about the global specialization. So when we talk about 5 minutes, okay. So global specialization means here like to develop more specific strategy when you invest globally in the across the borders. So how did we build our theory? Based on the information cost model, Casson 1999 and transaction cost theory, Williamson 1981. We complement these two theories in order to contribute to this literature. Most of the papers in the VC literature, they focus on the transaction cost. When we talk about the transaction cost, we mean like contracting, mentoring, screening, etc. But one step ahead is the cost associated with the gathering information and interpreting this information. And this is why we made this bridge between these two theories, the information cost theory on one hand and the transaction cost theory on one hand. This will provide us more nuanced way to develop our theory. So here, these are the 3 hypotheses of my first essay. The first one, like we test the base hypothesis, the impact of the information distance on the decision to invest across the border. Here, just to invest or not to invest, and that's it. No syndication. In the second one, we test the syndication And here the syndication, we test different constructs. It could be a binary or dichotomous variable, 0 or 1, to syndicate or not to syndicate, or it could be the syndication size, or it could be the degree of globalization. There are different ways to measure the syndication in the second hypothesis. The third hypothesis, it's about the implication, the performance implication. The second paper, it's has two hypotheses. We differentiate based on the experiential learning literature and connecting the real option theory with the transaction and information cost theories. We developed these two hypotheses, and we differentiated between the VC-specific experience and their also country-specific experience in a similar country or similar countries. So these are the two hypotheses shown here in the slide. The third essay, it's about like a global specialization. It's a little bit a step forward by, okay, now we know that we have the experience, this VC, they have the experience, but they need to take it a little bit forward. Okay, so our empirical strategy, we collected the data from a pre-QN, and this data was used previously in many papers published in top journals, FT50 journals, like Coleman et al. In 2025. We have over 270,000 individual deals, along with approximately 30,000 exit data. Here we have the measure for the dependent variables, and for independent variables, the moderators, and the control variables. How we measure the information distance. We took the market index between of two countries, and then we measure it using the Shannon entropy, because Shannon entropy is a statistical method to provide us with a hint about the information content. If you have some data, time series data, and we need to test how much information is there in this data, then one way is to use the Shannon entropy.
Mohammed, sorry, can you just wrap up, please?
But just like this is the last slide.
Okay.
And the econometrics model, basically the binomial model, because our dependent variable, it's dichotomous, 0 or 1. And we did some robustness check by conducting a threshold regression. We assume like there is a specific threshold for the information distance. If the information distance exceeded that threshold, then how this will impact the decision to syndicate or not. Or below that threshold, how this will impact the decision to syndicate. Okay. So yeah, this is all what...
thank you very much, Mohammed.
Okay,
thank you for this interesting topic.